It is truly remarkable what secrets our planet holds, buried just beneath our feet. This story begins not in one place, but in two, separated by the vast and deep Atlantic Ocean. On the sun-baked shores of northeastern Brazil, scientists uncovered something extraordinary. There, preserved in ancient rock, were the footprints of dinosaurs. These were not just random marks, but a clear trail left by creatures that walked this land millions of years ago. The tracks told a story of immense animals moving across a long-vanished landscape. It was a window into a forgotten world, a snapshot of life frozen in stone for an eternity, waiting patiently for us to find it. At the very same time, another team of scientists was working thousands of miles away, on the coast of Cameroon in Western Africa. They too were studying ancient rock layers, hoping to piece together the history of their region. To their astonishment, they found something incredibly similar. There, in the African rock, were dinosaur footprints that looked identical to the ones found in Brazil. The size, the shape, the distance between each step, it was all a perfect match. This was a puzzle of gigantic proportions. How could the same types of dinosaurs, leaving the exact same kinds of tracks, have been in two places that are now so far apart? The answer lies not in the animal's ability to swim across an ocean, but in the history of our planet itself. Today, a journey from Brazil to Cameroon would mean a long flight or a voyage across a huge body of water. But when these dinosaurs were alive, about 110 million years ago, there was no Atlantic Ocean separating these two lands. The world looked very different then. South America and Africa were joined together as part of one enormous supercontinent. This massive landmass is known to scientists as Gondwana. It was a single, continuous world where animals could roam freely across what would one day become separate continents. This incredible discovery of matching footprints is therefore more than just a story about dinosaurs. It is a story about the Earth itself. It provides living proof of a concept we call continental drift. The idea is that the continents we know today are not fixed in place. Instead, they are like giant rafts, floating and drifting slowly across the surface of our planet over immense periods of time. The footprints found in Brazil and Cameroon are like two halves of a single photograph, torn apart long ago and now brought back together. They are a physical connection, a fossil bridge, that links these two distant lands and confirms their shared ancient past. The process of matching these footprints was a piece of brilliant scientific detective work. It began with careful measurement and documentation at both sites. In Brazil, paleontologists created detailed molds and high-resolution three-dimensional scans of the tracks. They noted the depth of each print, which hinted at the weight of the dinosaur. They measured the length of the stride, the distance from one footprint to the next, to calculate how fast the animal was moving. Every detail, no matter how small, was recorded. This was not simply about finding footprints. It was about reading a story written in ancient mud, which had since hardened into rock. Meanwhile, in Cameroon, the other team was doing precisely the same thing, unaware of the discovery across the ocean. They meticulously cleaned the African tracks, brushing away centuries of dirt and dust to reveal the clear outlines beneath. Using similar techniques, they also created scans and models. When the two teams eventually shared their findings at an international conference, the room was filled with excitement. As they compared their data, the similarities were undeniable. The footprints were not just vaguely alike. They were a near-perfect match in every measurable way. It was as if the very same herd of dinosaurs had walked through both locations. This discovery was thrilling because isolated footprints can only tell us so much. But finding a long trackway, a series of steps, reveals so much more about behavior. The matching trackways in Brazil and Cameroon showed that these dinosaurs were not solitary wanderers. The tracks were found in groups, with multiple parallel trails running in the same direction. This is strong evidence that these giant creatures moved together in herds. They were social animals, likely traveling together for protection or to search for food and water. The trail stretched for hundreds of meters, painting a picture of a great migration across a vast, unified landscape. The scientists could even tell what kind of dinosaurs made these tracks. The footprints were large and had 3 toes, a classic sign of a group of dinosaurs known as theropods. These were bipedal carnivores, walking on 2 powerful hind legs. Based on the size of the prints, some of which were over a foot long, the researchers estimated that these theropods were medium to large in size. They were probably fearsome predators, similar to the ancestors of the famous Tyrannosaurus rex. Finding their tracks on 2 continents told us not just where they lived, but how far their territory once stretched. Let us try to imagine the world these dinosaurs inhabited. The environment of the early Cretaceous period, around 110 million years ago, was very different from today. The climate was warmer and more humid. There were no polar ice caps, and sea levels were much higher. The landmass that connected Brazil and Cameroon was a vast floodplain. It was a flat, sprawling landscape, crisscrossed by large, meandering rivers and dotted with shallow lakes. The dinosaurs were walking not on hard rock, but on soft, wet mud and sand along the edges of these ancient waterways. This is why their footprints were preserved so perfectly. The tracks themselves give us clues about the dinosaurs' journey. Some prints are deep and well-defined, suggesting the ground was very soft and muddy. In other areas, the prints are shallower, indicating the dinosaurs were walking on firmer, drier ground. We can see the direction of their travel, a steady march across the floodplain. Scientists believe these animals were likely following the rivers, which would have provided a reliable source of water and attracted smaller animals for them to hunt. These trackways are not just fossils. They are a map of behavior, showing us the daily life and survival strategies of these magnificent creatures. The types of theropods that made these tracks were likely skilled hunters. Dinosaurs from this family, such as Carcharodontosaurus, were known to live in this part of the world at that time. These were carnivores that could grow up to 40 feet long, with sharp, blade-like teeth. While we cannot be certain it was this exact species, the footprints belong to a similar kind of predator. The herd-like movement suggests a sophisticated social structure. Perhaps they were a family group, or maybe they were hunting together in a pack, a strategy that would have allowed them to take down much larger prey, such as the giant, long-necked sauropods that also lived in the area. This shared world was a rich ecosystem, teeming with life. Fossil evidence from both Brazil and Africa shows that this environment was home to a wide variety of creatures. There were giant plant-eating sauropods, armored ankylosaurs, and smaller nimble dinosaurs. In the rivers, there were massive crocodiles and large fish. The air was filled with flying reptiles called pterosaurs. The theropod footprints are just one part of this complex and vibrant world. They show us that these predators were a key part of the food web, roaming across a territory that was, for a time, one of the largest continuous land habitats on Earth. The story of these footprints is ultimately a confirmation of one of the most important ideas in geology, the theory of plate tectonics. This theory explains that the Earth's outer shell is broken into several large plates that are constantly, slowly moving. Over millions of years, this movement causes continents to collide, form supercontinents, and then break apart again. The matching dinosaur tracks in South America and Africa serve as a biological timestamp. They prove, in a very tangible way, that these 2 landmasses were physically connected at the time the dinosaurs made their journey across the mudflats. This discovery helps us build a more detailed timeline of our planet's history. By studying the age of the rocks in which the footprints were found, scientists can pinpoint more accurately when the final separation of South America and Africa occurred. The presence of the same terrestrial dinosaurs on both sides means the land bridge between them was still intact 110 million years ago. Fossils found in later rock layers on each continent begin to show different species, which tells us that the animals could no longer cross. The opening of the Atlantic Ocean created a permanent barrier, leading to separate evolutionary paths for the life on each newly formed continent. For paleontology, these footprints are a treasure trove of information. They go beyond bones. While a skeleton can tell us about a dinosaur's anatomy, footprints, or trace fossils as they are called, tell us about their actions. They reveal how they moved, whether they ran or walked, and whether they traveled alone or in groups. They provide direct evidence of behavior, something that is incredibly difficult to learn from bones alone. These trackways across two continents paint a vivid picture of dinosaurs as dynamic, living animals, migrating across a changing world, responding to their environment in ways we are only just beginning to understand. In the end, these ancient footprints matter because they connect the story of life with the story of our planet. They remind us that the ground beneath us is not static. The Earth is a dynamic and ever-changing system. The continents have drifted, oceans have opened and closed, and life has had to adapt to these colossal changes. The journey of these dinosaurs, written in stone, is a powerful lesson from the deep past. It teaches us about the interconnectedness of all things, of geology and biology, of ancient worlds and our own, and inspires us to continue exploring the incredible history of our planet.